Good evening, everybody. Late start tonight, I know, and I apologize. I also know on Fridays it is usually that's usually a really good way to have nobody watch the stream, but it's the time that I can make it here. I have definitely been looking forward to tonight's broadcast because we are going to be doing the Salon for Book of Hours House of Light tonight. Now, there's a couple things that I want to do. First of all, I'm going to sort of do all the introductory material for House of Light. I figure that because we're going to be going a little bit deeper into some of the hope is at least that we'll be going a bit deeper into some of this DLC's mechanics. I wanted to take a minute here and establish kind of what's going on. Books are the memory which does not die, inscribed in 5 languages over the gate of Hush House. Go quietly. Book of Hours is a forgiving sort of game. If you're worried you might be stuck, there's usually another way. So we are playing House of Light. Actually, you know what? Let's do this in the other order. So, Book of Hours and the House of Light expansion are brought to you by Alexis Kennedy, responsible for design, writing, and coding. Lottie Bevan, art, production, and marketing. They have collaborators Roman Loskudov, Knights of Unity, and FRGM for additional coding. Adrian Degan, Clockwork Cuckoo, and Catherine Unger for additional art. The lovely music that you are listening to is #1 available on the various streaming platforms, as well as available for purchase on Steam and, of course, on music platforms. But it is from Maribeth Solomon and Brent Barkman for Mickey Mar Productions Limited, R.I.P. Mickey Erb, and SFX by Soundcuts. Big thank you to Chinese Localization, Dove Archive. I have no hope of being able to pronounce any of the names here, but it is something that I appreciate because, first of all, there's a lot of effort here. Second of all, this is one of the things that allows the game to, or it allows Weather Factory to continue making games like this, or make games that will continue to surprise and delight us. I don't know what the plans for Book of Hours are after House of Light, but we do know that Weather Factory are prototyping their next projects, and they have been for a while. So, and I believe at least one of them does not take place in the Secret Histories setting. So, I think, I don't personally benefit from the localization because I was born in an English-speaking country, and is my primary language is my only language, although I'm really making an effort in terms of French. But there is something really wonderful about the fact that this game did well enough that they can support both localization and porting to other platforms. But also the fact that because it was worthwhile, that there are people all around the world who are going to be able to experience this really unique game. And Weather Factory on their blog have actually put up some details in terms of what it's like to localize these games. It is definitely not a straightforward experience, and so there's a lot of work that is going behind these names here. And finally, special thanks to all the beta testers: Riley Lebrec for Steamworks.net, Fingal's Coffee on Trafalgar Road, Johnny Coughlin and Mark Lewis, Alex Tuddy and Anna Poulter-Jones, PK and Sonia, Matt and Taz, and Sulo and Chi. So, let's open up House of... Sorry, I said I was doing this in the reverse order. We've got House of Light in the House of Light. House of Light is a big expansion woven deep into the game. Here is a spoiler-light guide for how to find the new bits. Food. Combine ingredients at the 3 kitchen workstations to create dozens of new dishes. You'll need kitchenware items to find all the recipes. Tip: the spice scales and the spices and savors skill will substitute for each other. A writing case. Once you've received this gift, you can record addresses from the calling cards left by satisfied visitors and write to those visitors to invite them back to the house. Tip: visitors don't arrive instantly. Visitors don't leave calling cards until you've helped them, and some visitors are easier to summon than others. Salons. Place food and drink in one of the 6 salon rooms and then use the bell to begin a salon. Do it right and you'll be rewarded with sparkling conversation and lessons. Tip: visitors usually prefer food and drink, which matches their primary interest, but some have additional requirements. Beta note: there are about 400 interactions in here, but probably another 100 to go. In particular, the villages don't yet have unique interactions. Manuscripts. Use paper, ink, and a skill to write a manuscript based on that skill. These manuscripts may be necessary to satisfy thirst for specific knowledge in further stories. Lessons from Salons will help you improvise those skills and write more useful manuscripts. Tip: you can't reliably control what visitors will discuss. It's a party, not an interrogation, but they will usually provide lessons related to their shared interests. Further stories. Once you've completed an incident, follow it up in the Tree of Wisdoms. Visitors will need more specific help here, or perhaps a book on a specific topic, or a specific book. Note, further stories for the Invisible Opera and Dappled Rose are not yet available in beta. Tip: an affair opens to further stories once all interested visitors have had the opportunity to ask you for help with it. Be aware, in some further stories it can make a difference who you originally helped. Be careful, this is one part of the game where choices can sometimes have permanent consequences. And finally, the Institute. Look for the lighthouse out at sea. When your visitors are ready, use it to establish the true heirs to the Curia of the Isle. Note, only a very limited and incomplete preview of the Institute functionality is available in beta. Tip: further stories' outcomes can inspire your visitors to support the Institute for their own reasons. Their nature is constant, but some story outcomes can make them decide to emphasize one agenda over another. Watchman's Tree. Hush House is one of the 9 great libraries of the Watchman's Tree, the select few places where hours sanction... No! Alright, welcome back, librarian. Everything is remembered. Hush House endures. Game loaded successfully. So, we've got the timer here. So, rest and refreshment in summer for my whist. I'm trying to remember what I was up to. So I remember at one point I wanted rain because it would give me the grail that I needed, but I don't think that is the case anymore. All right. So I've got Squawkphologia, the Broken Bridge, Collapsed Cellar, Infested Wine Cellar, Wounded Room we might be able to do something with. Seems to me like we've actually hit our limits. At least until we start bringing in some of the special hires. Okay, now I am interested in the fact that it says food and drink. So we have the food here, but I haven't actually put down any drinks. So I think I'm actually going to make an effort on... Sorry, I just noticed something here. Oh dear. Okay. So sorry, I'm going to take a minute here and just put up my... going to take a minute here and just put up the plan for the guests. So Serena, I think, is forged. Eason, I think, was nectar. I can actually test this at the with the writing case. Actually, I don't even need to do that. Eason Hart. So Serena Forge, Stanislav John Schaller is nectar. Igdistus is sky. Okay. So here's what I'm thinking as far as the... so it says food and drink, right? Now if I take a look in the room. So Salon in the Hall of Division, bring the light back to the mirrors where once Lady Eva held court. Here one might have lunch in the afternoon or supper in the evening. A good host will provide at least one first course, one main course, one side dish, and one pudding. But no mention of beverage. And I think that would be good for me to... I think it would be good for me to actually sort of address some of this. So what I would ideally want to do is provide one beverage of each kind, and specifically to provide something that sort of matches the... one alcoholic, one non-alcoholic, that matches each of the aspects. So that would mean forge, heart, nectar, and sky. Sky in particular is a tough one, but so we don't have access to the wine cellar yet. We do, however, have bottles of wine, so we can get nectar from the dandelion wine. We can also get it from the lambic. Schloss Jannings gives us heart. Okay, actually I'm going to take a minute to write these. So we've got... so for nectar we've got dandelion. And lambic. Schloss Jannings gives us heart. Okay. Islewater also gives us heart. Okay. I'm going to take a look at the things that have been poured already. So Roscragan whiskey gives us forge. Also rose, but we don't have anybody that does rose. Strathcoin gives us nectar. Armagnac D also gives us nectar. Witching to Seine gives us heart. Second Flush Assam doesn't give us anything that we need. Eigengrau doesn't give us what we need. So are my remaining options: drinking cocoa, Evening Isles coffee, Veiled Goddess, okay, I think I have a pretty clear idea in terms of what I can put in place. So if I'm going to do it this way, let's say so the Schloss Jannings I have more than one of. Actually, you know what? We'll put both of these here. So I'll put a bottle of the Schloss Jannings in the room, and then I'll pour some out. So with the Schloss Jannings, that's just for the heart. And then we'd also draw up some water and also serve some water. So that's the heart taken care of. Now for the next step, really right now, we're sort of waiting on things to happen. So let's unpause and just see where the day takes us. Pour it out. Okay, so let's say that the heart is now taken care of. I think I'll do the dandelion wine next. So as before, we'll take a bottle and put that up here. And then we'll also pour one if we have it. Looks like I don't. So with that in mind, if it's my last one, I think I'll just pour and then... So homemade flower wine. Actually, yeah, you know what? If that's the way it's going to be, I think we'll just keep things in reserve. Now, I think one of the things I'm noting here is I don't think I have a nectar, like a standalone nectar drink. So there's already some limits in terms of what I can pull off so far as beverages go. But that's fine. Like we'll still get through this. Okay. Where I can, though, I still want to try and keep some sort of non-alcoholic option, though. So. Sorry, just taking a minute here. I cannot read the notes that I just put down. So the Veiled Goddess actually works for both. Okay, so I'll put 2 of those down. I'm going to have to brew that, though. And the Roskragen whiskey is enough to get me started, so I'm going to put that... Oops. Okay. Oh, the drinking cocoa has nectar, apparently. What the hell was I thinking? No, it doesn't. Okay, so it's basically Forge and Sky with the two cups. That is fine. But I am sort of left asking what I want to do with the day. So what I'm going to do here, I think I'm going to have to make some decisions as far as how the day goes. But I might just use my whist here to brew a cup of tea, maybe? Better now. I mean, I guess there's nothing stopping me from doing that tomorrow, but let's just take a minute here and think about where we are. So, I have... So in terms of books that I want to read, I've said that Malachite Supplications, It Is Written, The Beekeeper's Ends, Letters to My Successor, and Singlefoot Songs are all books that I would be interested in reading before the Salon. Now, just because I'm interested in them doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to read them. But there is maybe a path, let's say. One option I have is to use my whist to read my way back to an earth sign, but I don't think I'll use the earth sign right away. So I can make money. I think I'm gonna make that tea though. Bring water to the boil, permit the potential here to express itself. And that'll give me an early start on the basket of dirty laundry. Obviously, it would be nice if I didn't kind of hit my income that way, but hey, here we go. The Sweet Bones is taking care of my laundry. Like I said earlier, one of the things that I've been really surprised by, but pleasantly surprised by in this DLC is how much I like the process of preparing for the guests. And now we've had the moment, which again, I wouldn't necessarily have sat down and said this is going to be sort of a headline feature of Book of Hours. But we've got this moment where I'm all ready to go for entertaining. And then I'm like, wait! But I forgot the, and now I'm sort of scrambling to sort of plan it all out. Like I said, I've been really delighted by how the game sort of captures this feeling of getting ready for everybody to come over and just sort of having that fun of like, oh, who do I invite and what do I serve and, all of the little details like this. I think it's a really engaging way to set this all up. So I'll slightly adjust the setup here. So we've got I guess this would be for Serena. Yeah, so no alcoholic options for Ecdistis, alcoholic, non-alcoholic for Serena. Unfortunately, only alcoholic options for Schaller. And Easton Feckery again has his choice between Islewater or Schloss Jennings. That's assuming that everybody doesn't sort of take each other's cups, but that's all I can just lay this stuff out. I mean, in theory, maybe one of the things I could do would be to just kind of have a bottle for everyone, but I don't think I quite have what it takes inside of the house. So I'll settle for the current form. Okay, so while we wait, I'll always have the option of fast forwarding, but let's actually take some time to sort out what tomorrow looks like, because in one sense I can say, well, let's just invite everyone now. And in another, you can say, well, maybe we do the Singlefoot songs. Fresh, clean, dry. So if I want to do the Singlefoot songs, we take pentiments and precursors. And actually with this, what I could do is I could take... I clearly need an element of the soul for this. Or sorry, I clearly need a memory for this. If I add the hourglass and then my health, that only brings us up to 5. I suppose I could try the Peribiot, but maybe that's a little... Well, actually, no, because that would just give me 1... Hang on. So Peribiot would give me 2. which would bring me up to 5. Yeah, so I could take the Peribiot and the health, actually. Which, I mean, is an option. I'm not sure it's my best option, because I'd still sort of wind up... Yeah, I think I'll just go for the memory. But this one is easily accessible for me. Now, it means I'm not going to send out the invitations for the Salon tonight, but that's one thing that I can work on. Drums and dances we sort of have a higher level for, but it's hard. Like, if I take drums and dances, so that's 2, health would bring me up to 3, Cake Bowl would bring me up to 4, and a memory would bring me up to 6. So in that case, oh, you know what? This weather would have been good for Beekeeper's End. So on a rainy day, we might consider that. And then Malachite Supplications, I don't think we have a good moon level to handle that. So I think I'm going to have to save that for another day. But Singlefoot Songs easily is something that we can bring into the set. And so I think what we're going to do is we're going to make today about, well, one, you know, any money that we can make, you know, we're going to do that here. So help with letters. I could offer help with correspondence and arithmetic. There is no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. I'm going to take the opportunity to read a fear text. And that's basically just so that I can use the tryst and sort of make something of the day there. So we believe we're on to treaties on underplaces. I will also take the time to renew my earth sign. So we get that by reading Wrapped in the King. The health is going to be used for Singlefoot Songs in 1 minute, which leaves me with the Open Whist. Now that one's a little trickier to figure out, actually, because I don't have an immediate use for it. I can obviously make some more money, but that's a little... Actually, no, hang on. I do have a use for it. I can brew tea. We'll see what the weather brings first, but... Okay, cloudy day, nothing... That's kind of... That's just a... That's a... I don't suppose anybody's seen The Wire. There's a scene with Idris Elba playing the character Stringer Bell, talking about a 40-degree day. I feel like the clouds counts as a 40-degree day. It's a particularly well done scene for those of you that want to look it up. Steam and scent both rise. It's ready. Alright, so we're going to put that back where we found the last one. I would have liked to have drawn up some more water, but the Singlefoot Songs was the higher priority to start with. Treatise on the Underplaces. Herein, the 17th century mystic and antiquarian Claude Hersalt describes the bounds or underplaces on the borders of dream. He warns that they shift over time. The walls of the mansis, Hersalt begins, are the size of starlight. Many of his directions are equally unhelpful, but common relationships do emerge. A picturesque account of a journey through night, interspersed with what might be partial rites. On the 18th ascent is the bud, on the 36th ascent, the blossom. The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. So, Wrapped in the King. Detailed accounts of secret bacchanals and ecstatic dances observed in necropolises and graveyards in southern Europe, in Egypt, and in Anatolia. The author is a self-confessed ghoul, an eater of buried flesh. He claims to have witnessed the dances while at his feasting. The dances draw from the traditions of the mysteries of the cults of Isis and Sybil, but include both symbolic and literal flayings, and the human heart is always central in the rites. The author punctuates his accounts with queasily sensuous descriptions of his own interrupted feasts. At these greater feasts, a black pig is always crowned as king before its slaying. On this occasion, its heart was weighed in the balance against a knot of feathers, and its skin became a cape for the officiant. Its flesh was left for the crows, but I must confess my interest was not in its carcass, but in the perfumed flesh of the milliner laid fresh in the earth. In the tracks of beasts and the convulsions of his own carapace, in egg vein and shell shadow, the many-eyed one found the signs which can be history. An earth sign is an auspice traced on the cloaked shape of the earth, perceptible to the sensitive, interpreted only by the wise. Can I serve the earth sign with a meringue if I'm feeling perverse? All right, so time to read the Singlefoot songs. Of course, there is a reference to a single foot in the Kukerbit. Oop, let's get that. All right, pentaments and precursors. We don't need anything else. I can master this mystery, enough scale to match mystery scale. And an afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers through the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. If I can, I will try to restore the health once it's done. But today was mostly about restoring elements. I think probably for tomorrow we'll use the elements of the soul to start the Salon. It's not to suggest that we couldn't, we don't have any hope of being able to do some of these others. Like I said, we have an outside chance that we could read the beekeeper's ends with a little luck. But I think rather than wait for that luck, it might be better for us just to commit the commit to the Salon. And again, I do have the option of committing some elements of the soul to the Tree of Wisdoms, or sorry, some skills to the Tree of Wisdom for the elements of the soul. But I'm in the last moments here of the period where I'm able to just sort of blob out and get skills without much consequence. So where I can, I'd kind of like to I don't know. I'd like to see what happens at the end of the Salon, and then we can make some decisions here in terms of saying, okay, I sort of know what the path is going to look like based on what I have in my inventory right now. Here's going to be that initial commitment that I make. Or we can say it's like, okay, I'm going to have to start committing things. So let's try and bring someone in who will give me that element or that skill, that language, that skill that's going to be committed to that first level of Horamakistry or Bosk or something like that. It's not too difficult. Most of the people who will be visiting, or we can invite, will probably have some kind of they'll be able to give me a language that I don't have. But it would be nice to be a little more ordered before I really commit. So the Singlefoot songs. Father Stanislav John Schaller, priest and diplomat, writes of his time on the slopes of Hushan, near the Grove of Green Immortals, never too near. Schaller's relations within the grove are cautious. It's a library of the tree, but under the hand of the hour named Applebright. In time, however, Schaller comes to be more sympathetic to the Applebright, which he suggests causes harm only when so invited. The Singlefoots of the title are one-horned, one-footed hill things with sweet but powerful voices, powerful enough to open the mountain. The Singlefoots sometimes trample pilgrims, sometimes heal them, sometimes coerce them to enter the mountain and become Singlefoots. Schaller explains when he found this last becoming too tempting, he decided to return to his homeland. So got a savage hymn for that. That's a good one. So this gives us Sky and Scale. And then a Hill and Hollow lesson. So not so clear what shelf I put this one on. We're starting to kind of run out of space. So don't really have anything free in this part of the library. I think maybe I'm going to start using the I don't know. Did I ever write? I don't think I ever read this. Vestibulum transitus was the Rye name the Curia gave this structure. Before that, it was Valentine's Bridge, the sheltered crossing beyond which Baron Valentine's solitude was assured. Acquire Hill and Hollow. Use this lesson to acquire a new skill. Okay. So we can now repurpose the health. Let me just take a minute to think about that. So we should have enough time. It is summer. I am sitting on the bench outside the Sweet Bones, eating crumbly cheese in nettle wrappings and good black rye bread, soaking up the sun. Now, if we are going to go into fall next season, it's Nectar and Grail that I have available. So maybe the 10 Nectar. Less likely the 10 Grail. Another leaf on the Tree of Wisdoms. Hill and Hollow, the paths of the hill children and the gods from stone. Old paths, old secrets, the songs that still echo beneath the earth. And that has 2 moon and 1 scale. So yeah, based on what I'm seeing here, I think next season it makes sense for us to bring in, to send for the visitors. That doesn't mean that the Salon will happen that day, but I'll at least sort of work towards that. Yeah, we're going to be cutting it kind of close, but I should be able to bring up the water. Better now. I think we have 2 minutes. Well, a little under 2 minutes, so 90 seconds isn't terrible. Lower the bucket, creaking into the dark. Now, if I want to bring in the Orchard Keeper, I'm actually just going to work out the numbers here for a second. So if I bring in the Orchard Keeper, we've got... so I've got 2 nectar to start with, so then health gives us 1, which brings us up to 3. So then memory. That gives us 2, which brings us up to 5. Bowl. That brings us 1, which brings us up to 6. So from that we can give Dandelion Wine. So that's 2, that brings us up to 8. And from there we would need food. Yeah, so the Pyrus Orchilcinus is definitely a very costly The other challenge here is that so many of these are so many of these are actually interesting ingredients to use. So I think I'm going to be content to say, unless the hen's egg has some kind of... I guess the viper egg wouldn't really tell me anything. So unless there's something about the hen's egg that would change the equation, I think I'm going to go so far as to say that we can't make something happen with the gardener. Although I'm perfectly willing to change that estimation if I can find like an ingredient that gives me the nectar that I need. And maybe experimenting with with different dishes would be would be a way that I can navigate that. But for now, let's say that is currently off limits. Oh, There's nothing for me to do with the whisk right now. So yes, tomorrow we are going to send out the invitations. It'll also be a nice little marker for how long it actually takes us to get the people in, because that might be a seasonal thing. That gulping you probably heard was me finishing my rather strong tea because I forgot to take the tea bag out. What I might do overnight, nearly logical, good to see you. It's a little quiet tonight, so I don't know how many people are going to get to see the salon, but you will. And then you can tell all the details to Sweep the Pillow clean, because I know she'll really appreciate that. I'll keep the Savage Hymn. But yeah, what I think I'll do before I get going on the invites, I'm going to take a minute to refill my tea. It's also really hot today, so if I can just get a second to, like, I don't know, find a paper towel and just sort of pat myself down or something. But yeah, I think we're ready. Like I said, it might be nice to try and dig a little bit deeper in terms of these books. But I'm not. I don't think it's like a make or break sort of affair to get the. A little water splashes on the stones of the well to nourish the mosses there. But yeah, I sort of think in this case, it's worth it for me to send out the invites. Anything extra that I get to do, I consider extra. The only thing that potentially happens is we get we wind up with some sort of lesson from the salon that I wasn't expecting, and I don't know. I don't really see a situation in which I would say, oh, I really wish, I read that book ahead of time. Like, this is all about options. And we did just recently have a Numa, so I don't see a situation in which we're likely to... Well, okay, I'd say it's very unlikely that we're going to get hit a second time. That's maybe the better way to look at it. I think theoretically... I don't know if it's theoretically possible. I don't know if you can get hit by 2 Numas in a row, but... I imagine... I'm trying to think what was... Oh, it's the cloudy day, right. Okay. So yeah, I know it's a little early for me to do this, but again, I kind of want to... I feel like there'll be a little more momentum in the next little bit as I get the invitations written and such. So I am going to take a minute away from the keys. I will brew some hot water or brew some tea, boil some hot water to brew some tea. I'm going to try and get a couple of things I should have done before stream dealt with on that while that's happening. And then we'll be back to properly invite some people back to the house and give them some food and such. Anyways, we will be back in just a minute. I will run some ads, so now's a good time for you to get up and get some refreshments too, if you're not subscribed or otherwise don't want to see the ads. Anyways, I'll see y'all in a little bit. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. The hot water is poured. The tea bag is drenched. I am not feeling any less warm, but we will make do. Okay, so we had a specific order that we worked out in terms of how I'm going to do the invitations. So I was going to take the Foresight with Bells and Braziers to talk to Serena Blackwood. Eason Fekri with Quenchings and Quellings would be enough. Or sorry, all of these will have the relevant ink, first of all. But Eason Fekri only required Quenchings and Quellings. Schaller just required health and drum. So I'm actually going to set the health aside just so that I know that one's reserved. And then we need a solace from Agdistus. So I'm going to guess here, if this generates the Foresight. So we'll say this generates the Foresight. This gives the invitation for Serena. And then this is the invitation for Eason. This is the invitation for Stanislav John Schaller. So yes, we will need to restore one of the whist. Okay, well, you know what? That's not the most difficult for me to deal with, because I need to do this one step at a time anyway. So for our opener, let's use one of the whist here. And we'll take Quenchings and Quellings. Alright, request Eason's present. I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Eason to Brankrug. So that's going to take 10 seconds. So that's good to know that I have sort of a 10-second window on some of these things. I'm going to do help with letters here just so that I can earn a little bit more money. And I'm going to start working on that forge right away. Now, it might also be good for me to just think about how I'm going to invite Serena Blackwood. So I think here, Foresight has lanterns, so then we would be able to, yes, then we'd be able to use bells and braziers here. So we'll use the tryst for the invitation and the fete to get the Foresight. And for that, we had Vincent's Minglings next. Or no, hang on. I think we read that. So Franklin Bancroft Diaries. Okay. Now it'll be interesting to see whether or not the... All right, and do weather. So yes, that does consume the ink. That's good to know. Now I just need to post it. All right, so we've got an invitation to Eason. Dear Mr. Feckery. So what's interesting actually is I could have done this over time, but now we know how this works, so I'll be able to work towards that in the future. I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. All right. Let's get writing the next letter. So this was going to be a heart, drums, and ooh, that's right. We need to be a little more thoughtful about how I do that. So the Natan's desk should help me out here. Drums and dances. So that gets me the nectar that I need for Schaller. And finally, the ink. And there we are. Conceive or no. Request Father Stanislav's presence. I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Father Stanislav to Brankrug. Now I just need to post it. Dear Father Schaller. So we need to wait for the tryst now. That's going to be so that I can send the message for Serena Blackwood. And then we need one more. We'll need to get the solace, and then we will need to get the an element of the soul to be able to work with the solace. My expectation is we should be able to send these all out by the end of today, but we'll see how it all goes. Okay, an afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers through the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. Autumn. It is autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. And Bancroft Diaries. Lord Franklin Bancroft was initiated into the arts of the flower maker by the rose witch Fiona Ayrshire. He rose to become a society provider of occult services and secret pleasures before his abrupt disappearance in 1790. Bancroft seems to have been a talented adept, but devoted his energies to frustratingly whimsical projects, arranging grape-fetching races between mantis spirits, teaching percussagants to juggle, and conjuring storms of imaginary blossoms for the rose witch Ayrshire, who resolutely refused ever to couple with him. Bancroft spends 20 pages bemoaning this last. The mantra here recorded is a high and exacting magic which can be used to pledge one's spirit to the watchman, beginning an ascent to the house. Bancroft boasts of his ability to recite it when in his cups. He also had it set to music for a performance with fireworks at Vauxhall Gardens. Okay, so there's the foresight that we wanted. So the expectation was that we would be able to use this in the library itself, or specifically the reading room. The book wheel is a de Wolf heirloom, a gift to Ava de Wolf from her admirer, the adept Franklin Bancroft. The desk and lectern are much more recent. Steel plaques on both read, to Gervenius Van Loren in gratitude for his assistance in the closing of the winding stair. E. Abney Hastings, Nocturnal Secretary, 1928. So we're able to put the tryst in the soul card. We will then take the foresight in memory, bells and braziers because it has sky aspect. Finally, we will add the writing case. sturdy brass-cornered writing case, which has been of service to at least 3 librarians of the house. And the ink. I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Serena to Brandkrug. It would be wonderful to invite Douglas Moore, by the way. Just it didn't quite work out in terms of my overall plans. Oh, this is interesting. So we seem to have exhausted the visitors for the affair of the Friar's Tapestry. Now I just need to post it. Dear Dr. Blackwood. A story has no beginning or end. Arbitrarily, one chooses that moment of experience from which to look back or from which to look ahead. Graham Greene. Nothing particular is afoot. Any visitors this season will likely just want a general consultation. Zachary Wakefield, who happens to know Fusine and Kilisimi, so I think we will hire him. Actually, this is a tough one because we don't have Wakefield in the case yet. So I think it's bigger for me to have him added than it is for me to get the language, unfortunately. Marksman Detective Renegade. He has always been a quiet man, but since he left the Suppression Bureau, he has grown even quieter and terribly still, except for his fingers and for his eyes, always in restless motion. Librarian, I can see you. So we have nothing to talk to him about. If I give him the Spintria, so we could get tutoring in Fusine. But again, it says here, after tutoring you, the visitor will leave, even if they arrived on other business. So we'll talk with him. I could identify my visitors' interests and satisfy them with an appropriate book. Alternatively, if they know a language I'd like to learn, I can offer payment. So it's knock or winter, and in this case, I think I'm just going to wait. I'm going to use whatever. I think Keona Abydos is the best option. No, that's a 6. Maybe treaties on the underplaces then, or advice on containment. Both work. Knock, suitable reading. My visitor needs something sealed or unsealed. My collection can help. So again, we're waiting on the sweet bones for one of the elements that I need. I think we'll just get the whist again. It seems the safest option. Actually, no. I'm going to get the vet. Hang on. So it's like Deistus with a... No, actually Trist makes the most sense here. So Tuppence will buy me a hearty meal and a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. Okay, so... This wasn't quite how I imagined it going, but I can get a solace here, or a storm for that matter. I guess the storm probably makes as much sense as anything. So Apollo and Marsyas should be somewhere here, right here. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. So the reason why oh, damn it, I got the Fet, didn't I? Alright, that might complicate things. So the original plan was the Tryst, because then I would be able to combine it at the reading room. But I think... so I can use the Fet, Solace, and yeah, the drums and dances, or... Yeah, drums and dances should work. Nope, because drums and dances doesn't have Sky. But... Magaphine Mystery? Wait, no. Magaphine Mysteries doesn't work. Sky Stories does. Alright, I mean, not great. It definitely makes things more complicated, but I'll live. And again, I don't really have any expectations in terms of being able to open up the various rooms. It's a nice to have, but it's not essential. I think the main focus is going to be to host the Salon when I can. How promising. So I got Zachary's card and an Iron Spintria for our trouble. Not quite ready to add Zachary's card yet because we have an occult scrap and it's not entirely clear what we want to do with that yet, but we might find some uses for it. Better now. Apollo and Marsyas, the libretto of a lost opera concerning the contest between Apollo and Marsyas and its tragic outcome. The librettist is identified only by their initials. In the original myth, Marsyas lost the musical contest and was flayed by Apollo, who later regretted it. In this version, Marsyas' skin has a further history. The skin of Marsyas gives oracles and is later smuggled to Phrygia, where the priestesses of Sibyl use it for a drum. At the climax, the striking of the drum drives would-be violators of the priestesses to suicidal madness. The opera ends with a wistful hymn from the youngest priestess on the beauty of mountain pines. Storm. There are storms great enough to shake the moon from the sky and one's thoughts from one's skull. Okay, so we should be able to get this invitation written, even though it's a little bit different from what I was originally planning. So we'll go to Natan's desk, we'll add the storm, we will add the fete, we will add the papers, and we can add the ink, but we will not be able to invite the intended guest quite yet. For that, we will then need to go to Sky Stories. And there we go. Request Agdistis presence. I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Agdistis to Brandkrug. Oop. I should also bring... I can bring the wisp back and make enough to... or be able to do one more round with the sweet bones. Now, it does say that the visitors don't... Hello, Takri! You arrived just in time. So now I just need to post this. So we've got 4 letters. We're about to invite people to Hush House and get ready for a Salon. Oop, sorry, Reverend Timothy. All right. The postmistress keeps the gate to the wider world. In her left hand is the lightning, which is to say the telegraph, and in her right the thunder, which is to say the only telephone in Brandkrug. Before her lies the cash register, which accepteth the greater currency and returneth its lesser children. So, invitation to Eason. Patience, thus the mountain awaits the fall of the snow, thus Monday awaits the death of the weekend, thus the postmistress waits for me to purchase the necessary stamp. Stamp, envelope, send. Aha! Did Eason receive my invitation? This might get awkward, actually. I might have to get everybody... I might have to put everybody up. Invitation to Serena. Stamp, envelope, send. The postmistress examines the letter and deems it sufficient. It'll go with the next post, she assures me. I might want to bring in Mr. Kill as a precautionary measure. Yeah, I think as a precaution, I'm going to use that wisp to bring in Mr. Kill. Because how disappointing would it be for me to invite everyone to invite everybody to Hush House and then not be able to actually, or like they all arrive and then I'm not able to put them in a room. Dusk, night from day, silver from gold, the vesper hour when the priests would honor the rising of the evening star, Meniscate. Better now. Okay. Speak with Mr. Kill. Mr. Kill always enjoys a chance to catch up with me. If you don't choose a topic, Mr. Kill will offer help as a friend. Mr. Kill can always spare a few hours to help a friend. Mr. Eason Fekri. Formerly, Eason was a healer. He was not human. He was Secretary Salvant of Hush House, but not all at the same time. Fussy, kind, famously foul to look upon. Grateful someone found my assistance useful. It's a visitor. He prefers moon... Oh! Good to know. I may have some trouble here. So we're sort of set with the dishes, but I may... Well, we really need to see what everybody else wants, so... Dr. Serena Blackwood prefers forage, food, and drink. Okay, so... Okay, so let's just see, as far as food goes, do we have any moon? We do not. It's very unlikely that I'm going to be able to substitute something either. Do we have... So originally... Okay, so Eason's got... But Eason does have his moon... does have a sky drink, so... There's that. Sorry, Dr. Serena Blackwood, one-time librarian of Hush House, one-time librarian of the Invisible Serapeum in Alexandria, and currently what exactly? Serena is closed-mouthed, but I know that she has worked with the St. Ronwin Trust. Father Stanislav John Schaller, priest, diplomat, gardener, a soft-voiced man with a very steady gaze. So, he... Okay. So heart, food, and drink. So I believe for him the original intention was nectar, so the dandelion wine doesn't really apply here. Now technically we're already covered, but let's pour another... we can easily pour another glass of water. And Schloss Jannings as well. So pour out. Whoa! Pour out. Pour it out. Okay, so 1.4 seconds, and then we can see... And Peter Agdistis likes heart, food, and drink. Okay, so that has complicated things a little bit. Yeah, I don't think there's anything... I don't think there's a reasonable expectation that I'm going to be able to fix the moon situation. So... Sorry, I'm just trying to think if there's something clever I can do in the last minute, but I don't think so. Okay. So, the Jannings will give me another heart to work with. Yes, okay. So, Schloss Jannings here. And I guess in this case it's the drinking cocoa. Oh no, I have the water. And maybe what I can do here... So I have the God in the Wood. Has anything more happened at the health camp in the Black Forest that called itself the Lyterian? What did he learn about the connection between the Lyterian and Thyrza Blake? Alternatively, we've got Agdistis. What did he learn about the connection between the Lyterian and honey? Or Schaller. So Douglas is the only one that we don't have. What did he learn about the change in the world's pulse? So I think in this case, I'll try and learn a little bit more about... Oh, hang on. Nope, sorry. Thyrza had a contact with the remnants of the Carapace Cross, trafficked with, they used to say. Dangerous habit, but she had a lot of dangerous habits. Lieselotte, the Lyterian director, she's trafficking with them a lot more enthusiastically, implanting larval cross in her patients. Oh, they want her to do it, and both sides benefit, but I'm not sure it's a good idea, and the Bureau's noticed. Alright. Lieselotte has been exalting willing humans with the implantation of the larval Blomberende kind in the Lyterian. Is that bad? Alright, help Stanislav resolve the Lyterian business. Perhaps it's best to end the matter. There is a name of the Velvet who can be employed to consume the larva to put a stop to Lieselotte's scheme. But also she has approached me for help. She insists that this will build a bridge between the Cross and other thinking kinds. If I am to take the first course, I would use anything on the means by which we might attract Kittling Ripe, including Horns and Ivory's 10. But for the other path, I am considering it, if you have Milagro on bees or Hattington on honey... That's really interesting, by the way, that, so you are, lovely to see you, Daily Daybreak, even if you are lurking. There's some big lore in here, so, if you want to break the lurk to ask any questions, feel free to ask. But for those of you who do not know Daily Daybreak, wonderful broadcaster, I was recently watching play Morrowind. Also somebody who I've seen play some of the Brace Yourself games, including Crypt of the Necrodancer and Rift of the Necrodancer. Highly recommend checking them out if you have not already. So this is kind of interesting. I think you're given sort of this imperfect information in terms of where it's going to go. I do kind of want to see what Douglas winds up doing. So we know with Stanislav... So I think with Schaller, I'm a bit reluctant to... I think I'm a bit reluctant to help out. So we'll say Horns and Ivories. Horns and Ivories 10 is the answer here. Okay, so I think I'm waiting to serve the water. And Schloss Jennings. Okay, let's see if we can do a Salon in the Hall of Division. Bring light back to the mirrors where once Lady Ava held court. Here one might have lunch in the afternoon or supper in the evening. A good host will provide at least one first course, one main course, one side dish, and one pudding. So, oh. So turns out not every room will accept oh, maybe because they haven't implemented these. Oh yeah, no worries. So Daily Daybreak, I'm definitely not trying to sort of guilt or pressure you into the into the like staying with the stream. I just wanted to mention, actually, there's a couple of big events that have just recently happened, so I thought I'd offer some context. But please enjoy D&D. I really do appreciate you hanging out in the channel. So again, if you don't say another word, your presence is absolutely appreciated. Okay, so we may not. It could be. I think it says that the interactions with the villagers aren't implemented anyway, so this might just be a way that they sort of prevent me from doing them, but that's fine, so we know better for next time. Eason will only attend if there is something to eat with Moon. Okay. For lunch or supper, you'll always need one first course dish. Isn't that what the... Oh, side dish. Oh no! Alright, I think I'm gonna have to find beds for everyone. I think these are all hard, yeah. So, Forge and Lantern. Well, here we go. Peter Egdistis, Eason Feckery, Father Schaller, this needs Moon, Winter, not looking good. I'm thinking we're probably going to lose Serena tonight. Yeah, knock. This is obviously mine, so If I could decamp, that would help. But yeah, I think if I go top to bottom... So no beds up here. Well, sorry, there's one bed up here, but this is moth. Oh. Yeah, sky, so no good there. Occupied. Knock. Oh, didn't check this one. Grail. These, I think, are hard again. Yeah. This isn't a bed. Winter. So, slight change of plans then. Let's learn Fusine from Serena Blackwood. It's always very strange to be back. Thank you for taking on the place. So, tutoring Fusine. My visitor can teach me the rudiments of this dry language. Alright, so that's given me a start. So what I'll want to do next, if I can, I'd like to bring in another visitor. Probably Douglas in this case. And, night has fallen, dawn will come soon. We can, of course, invite Serena again. I need the ink for it, but we had at least one surplus, and Catwink isn't that hard for me to get back again. Sorry, Mr. Kill, I really did want to have you take part. So yeah, we can have two guests. Now the nice thing here is that because it's two side dishes, I could have sworn... So I guess the roast potatoes are sort of locked in. But yeah, we can definitely do something else with the crusty bread. I'll see if there's any... Okay, actually, I noticed here... Ah, pickled mushrooms count as a first course. So, I actually could have started the... I could have started this anyway. Alright, well, let's make the most of this. So if I use the Tryst, Peribiad, so it seems to me the obvious step here is to invite Douglas. Now Serena requires me to use some of that forge again. So this time we're on to the War of the Roads, 1451 to 1551. Willis Ford describes the War of the Roads, an event in a history other than our own, in detail. From the beginnings as a martial philosophical dispute between the dawn and sunset roads of alchemy to a war which ravaged half of Europe. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. Okay, rainy day. So I think we said that was potentially enough for us to read the Beekeeper's Ends. I think this is worth a shot. So we'll use the earth sign in this case. Drums and oh, that's right. I gotta use it at Nona's desk. Not crazy about using up the cake bowl. Or, you know what? The mortar and pestle will probably suffice. Yeah, crush. Okay, the Beekeeper's Ends. It's an 8 of... sorry, 6 of 8. But we have the rain. Help with letters. I can offer help with correspondence and arithmetic. There's no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. Now I just need to post it. So we'll wait a little while on the invitation to Douglas Moore. Okay, the War of the Roads, 1451 to 1551. Willis Ford describes the War of the Roads, an event in history other than our own, in detail, from its beginnings as a martial philosophical dispute between the dawn and sunset roads of alchemy to a war that ravaged half of Europe. It is not now widely believed that the sons and daughters of the Red Rose were forged into immortals. Understandably, they are, after all, now all long dead. The forge itself devoured the greatest among them. The royalty of England, according to Willis Ford, became the sovereigns of the leashed flame, destroying or transforming their enemies, conquering Europe, establishing grand cathedrals to St. Spark. The alliance with the Forge begins to take its toll. At last, the Bronze King undergoes his great misfortune and great debasement, and is afterwards known as the Copper King. His attempt to cheat the Forge ends badly. The leashed flame is released, and the King's heirs are merely mortal sovereigns. Okay, so we should be able to invite Serena off this. So, bells and braziers. We'll put the whist in place. I'll maybe just double check that I don't have any Peribiot. Oh, yeah, nope, it's up here. So, I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Serena to Brandkrug. So again, not exactly how I planned on spending the day, but we're hopefully recovering. So perhaps you provided nectar, but not enough to match mystery nectar. If you're lucky, you might still succeed. We have an epiphany, comfort-relevant furniture. That won't be enough to push us over the edge, and then stuff also things that will probably help us. So an afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers to the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. And actually, it did occur to me that if these folks... So I can give it... I'll give it like 20 seconds. I do need to make sure that I keep on top of the opportunities. I just need to post it. But yeah, I think we can actually time this out that everyone kind of becomes available roughly the same time, although we're probably going to have to wait until later in the day. Actually, you know what? Probably better to post this sooner rather than later now that I think of it. So definitely Douglas Moore first, because if he has special dietary considerations, we may still be able to recover it. Stamp, envelope, send. I'm going to recover... Ooh, I can't recover my health. Okay, so... Okay, first things first, a nectar comfort. So the wicker chair is probably restful garden chair. Sit here and listen to the trees grow, or leaves fall. Preferences differ. How you doing, ever waiting sleeper? You're. We had a bit of a misstep in terms of the first Salon, but we are doubling back, and we'll be ready to get everyone invited shortly. We did, in fact, have a picky eater. Oh, interesting. Did Serena receive my invitation? So she does not seem to be available right now. We'll see whether or not she gets pulled out of the queue. That's an interesting way of handling sort of the global presence of a character, actually. Okay, fiddle with something here. Increase relevant aspects by using a thing. This is always a tricky one because there's lots of different things. My best bet actually is probably to just add the mortar and pestle. Or no, sorry, the cake. Ah, do I really have to give up the cake bowls? I think I do. Anyways, that brought us up to 8, so good news there. I've learned enough to puzzle out books in this language, though it might be slow going. Fusine, a people lived east of the lost lake Fusino. Horace warned that theirs was the land of witches. This was their language, called by some the dry tongue, and by others the tongue of witches. Vesper Fortune coming in with 10 souls. Thank you very much for the raid. I'm actually going to be able to finally take a second here. So first of all, we had Daily Daybreak in a little bit earlier, and I did speak to their qualities as a wonderful broadcaster, currently doing Morrowind, but not exclusively. But I didn't get to do the shoutout command. And of course, last but not least, we have Vesper Fortune VT, who I feel like the majority of you will actually already be familiar with. But I did find Vesper Fortune through Weather Factory games. He was playing Cultist Simulator, which is the first game that Weather Factory did. This is the follow-up called Book of Hours. And in fact, we are playing the early beta of the expansion to Book of Hours called House of Light. And we are just getting ready to do a Salon. So we get to invite people back and let them eat all sorts of wonderful things. Looks like Serena Blackwood will not be getting my invitation. But anyways, Vesper Fortune, like I said, is a lot of fun to have around. And what were you playing tonight, out of curiosity? He very kindly invited, very kindly gifted, he very kindly gifted the Ace Attorney series, which I do intend to do on stream. Visitor grows impatient, so we'll be inviting them all to a Salon before too long. But you ran into Alexander the Great, Cleopatra, and Plato in your game. Sounds like my kind of game. Psychopomp. All right, I'm going to have to check this out. But yeah, Vesper, like I said, is a lot of fun to hang out with. He has done some Weather Factory games, and I suspect does plan to play Book of Hours at some point. But right now, he's doing a little bit of everything, it feels like. Alright, so that's a bit of a shame that Serena doesn't seem to be on her way in. It's a surreal horror game that I think is a metaphor for autism. Interesting. Okay, the Beekeeper's Ends. Dialogues with bees and uses for honey, and as erratically recorded by Ricardo Milagro, gardener of Hush House in Musgrave's time. Yeah, no, that's fine. I don't think it's wrong for people to talk about games that they're interested in and what they're getting out of it. I'm free to make up my own mind. But I wouldn't have heard of it if you didn't mention it. So, Milagro spends an entire chapter on his hatred of wasps, which he describes as the vile pretenders. Milagro claims that bees retain many traditions passed down from earlier and greater branches of the species, but that they are fiercely jealous of these traditions being passed to lesser insects, and insist above all on an oath of secrecy. Tragically, therefore, he is unable to describe these more substantial and powerful traditions. So we get an impulse for that. And 2 insects and nectars. Use this lesson to acquire a new skill. Yeah, so I think we'll be 1 guest down for the Salon, but that's fine because we weren't planning on... Oh, nope, there she is. So we'll have a full house. But yeah, so for those of you who are unfamiliar with House of Light, one of the major features that's being added to the game is the ability to sort of bring people back. So first of all, you can do that to even learn languages. But on top of that, you are able to bring people to... to host a salon and just get some lessons and otherwise progress the story a little bit. But the game bring up the question you forgot to answer to. I think it's either Plato or Socrates, but which Greek philosopher is really hated by modern standards? I don't necessarily think either of them are hated by modern standards, but would you be able to give a specific reason in terms of why they would be hated? Because I think in the case of Karl Popper, he did Open Society and Its Enemies, and he definitely took Plato to task as sort of being this, sort of foundational totalitarian or authoritarian philosophy. But I mean, I don't know if Karl Popper would sort of speak for modern standards. Certainly, lots of other thinkers would consider Plato to be a still a model. Well, not a model. Like, obviously, it's ancient philosophy, so it's sort of the first effort to tackle some of these things. But a Greek philosopher who's really fallen out of being liked. I mean, compared to the Middle Ages, like, Aristotle was kind of considered to be the last word on... Socrates was definitely the one who was executed for corrupting the youth. But yeah, I mean... I think the question would really be, like... In whose estimation? Because, like, you have... Like, Nietzsche didn't really like Plato. Aristotle, in sort of the Middle Ages, had this status as being, like, the answer to everything. And so, on a relative basis, he is less regarded than he might have been historically. But I don't necessarily think is sort of hated by modern standards. The pre-Socratics I don't necessarily see being... like, too out there. Like, they're definitely not as often as regarded as Plato, but again, I'm trying to think of one who's, like, really despised. Democritus would kind of be considered to be, like, one of the first atomists, possibly even the founder of atomism, so that one sort of seems to have... Like, it was an inspiration rather than, like, getting it right. But, I mean, we do obviously have... Hey, I know, I'm just curious on this one, actually. I feel like I need more context, though, because to me, I can't really think of any philosophers who are individually disliked particularly, like ancient Greek philosophers. I can see how some writers or some thinkers would not be popular. Like Ovid kind of seems to go through these phases of being like really admired and a major source of inspiration to either people undervaluing him or potentially just outright disliking him. But he's obviously not a philosopher, and he's definitely not Greek. Huh. Okay, I'm really going to need to think about this. Yeah, I did. I saw that. Thank you very much, Vesper. And it's free. It's my favorite price. Okay. But yeah, we are getting ready for a party. And in fact, it's actually it's almost evening already. So did Douglas receive my invitation? So he prefers lantern food and drink, which is good because I can add to the collection. So dandelion wine for the booze. And I believe the tea ought to do the trick here. Yeah. Run out of room. Very crusty bread. Okay, so I think we're good for D.I. Moore. And we should already be covered for Serena Blackwood. Now, I think the time may be inappropriate here, so let me just see if we add Peter, Eason, Schaller, D.I. Moore. Make sure there's at least one thing in the room for every visitor to eat. Okay. No! See if I can whip something up real quick. Right, I don't have the heart yet. Well, I mean, one of the options I have would be to get a language from someone. All right, thank you very much, whatever. It's always a pleasure to see you outside of Vesper's channel. I'm sorry I've not been a little bit more attentive with chat, but I'm trying to get everybody happy. Actually, I wonder... So if I just throw the bowl of pears in here... Sacre bleu! It really is, Vesper. Right, let's see if that gets... Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna need to figure out the lantern situation. And I need heart for that. But what I can do is, we did make some progress. So Lisa Lotta has been exalting willing humans with the implantation of the larval Blumberendi kind in the Laterian. Is that bad? So help Douglas close the Lytarian. Insects and Nectars 6 should do the job. Or help Stanislav resolve the Lytarian business. Perhaps it is best to end the matter. There is a name of the Velvet who can be employed to consume the larva and put a stop to Lieselotta's scheme. But also, she has approached me for help. She insists this will build a bridge between the Cross and the other thinking kinds. If I am to take the first course, I could use anything on the means by which we might attract Kittling ripe, including horns and ivories. But for the other path, I am considering it, if you have Milagro on bees or Hattington on honey, which we do. Yeah, what we're going to do here is we're going to wait until I get my health back. That'll give me a fighting chance to get one of the dishes. And again, if we don't have the appropriate dish, then I'll just get a language lesson. My only real option here would be we either get rid of Fekri or we get rid of Schaller. Just trying to think if there's any other... I mean, I guess... No, Cuckoo Honey doesn't have the lantern. Couldn't serve this raw. Yeah, I'm not feeling too confident about the food situation, to be honest. So the lantern food that I can make... Wait, do I really not have any lantern dishes? That can't be right. I really did not think this through. So even if... So it may actually be the case that I... It might actually be the case that I can't do anything to satisfy Douglas's needs, but we're gonna give it a shot. 20 seconds, and I'll know for sure. Better now. Alright, let's see what we can do in the kitchen. Okay, so with the pheasant, roast a pheasant. If I take some alcohol. Okay, no luck there. beef joint on its own doesn't do anything. Marinated joint of beef, but we don't quite know where that takes us. One of the problems I have right now is that I just haven't put enough... really don't have any options in terms of cooking a viper egg. Bake a pale stuffed marrow. Interesting. So... dark stuffed marrow... wasn't quite what I planned. But it is the lantern that I needed. So, a dish with heart, lantern, and nectar. It's a little bit of a shame to give up the golden marrow, but you know what? I will take it. And actually, it would have been nice for me to explore a few more recipes, but we still have enough time to get the Salon going. Yay me. It is autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Get a stuffed marrow ready to go. Last minute dietary restrictions. I like this. Definitely going to take it easy tomorrow. Well, I guess we can't really take it easy. We'll consider what we've learned at the Salon. But yeah, I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time doing work after setting up a big event. Stuffed golden marrow. This marrow was accounted a beauty among its kind. Now it's a dish for those who understand fidelity. When you get that gluten-free vegan as a last minute +1. Alright, I think we are ready to go. So a Salon in the Hall of Division. Bring light back to the mirrors where once Lady Ava held court. We invite Peter Egdistis, Eason Fekri, Stanislav John Schaller, D.I. Moore, Douglas Moore, and Serena Blackwood. My guests take their places for supper. Keep an eye on the Salon as it progresses. You will need to add soul cards. Ah! What do you want from me? Okay. My guests take their places for supper. 10 seconds. Oh, lordy. All right. I have a plan. Try and get as much variety as we can, but... better now. Alright, we want as much variety as I can get here, so... A formal meal, lunch and supper last longer than less formal salons, allowing an extra interaction between your guests. Ooh, 5 interactions, good lord. Inject a little gaiety. Add a core card. We do not have core. Conversation ebbs and flows. Lively chatter. Alright, so this is a great way to incentivize me to stop hoarding all of my elements of the soul. Invite a challenge. Add a metal card. Alright, so not the most exciting Salon because it's asking for cards that I don't currently have. Raise a complex question. Add a whist card. Agdistis and Serena discuss a masked play, a sort of degenerate Suffolk hybrid that he saw in Alexandria some years ago. They would only perform it, he says, in the hours before dawn. Serena nods. I think that was wise. Lesson Watchman's Paradoxes. Better now. Conversation ebbs and flows. God, they really want a lot of core on this one. This is just like you, for real? Douglas and Serena discuss a shared, concealed, but evidently profound passion for knitting. Douglas, if you tell anyone outside this room, I'll have you locked up. Serena, if you tell anyone outside this room, I'll give King Crucible your address. Lesson weaving and not working, so another one we already have. Conversation ebbs and flows. Raise a complex question. Add another whist card. Okay, so for the most part, what we gave up to make all this stuff work paid off. So this every time that we had something we potentially could work with, it succeeded, which I like. I also really like the idea here that the first Salon sort of goes all night. That's kind of neat. Oh, I forgot to restore that. Okay, doesn't matter. Serena and Agdistis discuss the rights of the Damascene branch of the House of Leith. She wonders, she is tactful, but the implication is clear, whether Agdistis participated in any similar rites to preserve his wonderful voice. He says that he did not, and he is smiling, but it is a smiling mask. Alright, Sacralamea, which I believe... No, hang on, we already have it. So yes, we're getting lessons that we already know. Which is fine. Oh, Fog. That's probably going to give me a leg up to reading Malachite Supplications. And Oriflammes. So Oriflammes is offering me another copy of the Sevenfold Slaying of the Seven Coiled. We do have 2 gold Spentria, so I think we can work with that. Oriflammes thanks you for your custom. Should actually take a minute here too. So in terms of inviting people, so Fekri we want for Mandayak and Shalar we want both for Crack Track but also to resolve the story. Okay, cool. So let me just make a note here. Okay, there's nothing really stopping me from... So if I go Malachite Supplications, Trist, Fog, still coming up short on Moon. I think this is the highest. Oh. Ah, darn, we're really close. So my best bet here is to bring in a Confounding Parables. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. If they ask for Fet, I am going to rage. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Daily Daybreak. Unless you're talking, like... I can't imagine saying rough, like, it means anything but bad, but... I hope this is an acceptable alternative. If you want, we can reread some of the Salon events if you'd like. Conversation ebbs and flows. Oh, that's good. A quiet meal concludes. The guests leave content. For a more successful salon, add more guests. Ensure you have the right soul cards or both. Okay, so just a recap of what happened. So, oh, hang on. Yeah. Agdistis and Serena discuss a masked play, a sort of degenerate Suffolk hybrid that he saw in Alexandria some years ago. They would only perform it, he says, in the hours before dawn. Serena nods. I think that was wise. Douglas and Serena discuss a shared, concealed, but evidently profound passion for knitting. Douglas, if you tell anyone outside this room, I'll have you locked up. Serena, if you tell anyone outside this room, I'll give King Crucible your address. Serena and Agdistis discuss the rights of the Damascene branch of the House of Leith. She wonders, she is tactful, but the implication is clear, whether Agdistis practiced in any similar right to preserve his wonderful voice. He says that he did not, and he is smiling, but it is a smiling mask. My guests leave content. For a more successful salon, add more guests. Ensure you have the right soul cards or both. So I'm not expecting to be able to do a whole lot today, but... Oh, wow. Scraps, dregs... Alright, yeah, everything in... Oh, actually, that's good to know. So the fact that I gave people, like, multiple options here means that I just sort of wound up... wasting a bunch of resources. So that's also good to know for future. Do we know what soul card is going to ask, or is it random? I have to imagine that probably there is some... there might be some connection in terms of the nature of the guests that you add, but there's no indication from the game in terms of what it's going to be. And to be honest with you, so I kind of get a little bit of an idea of how... I don't know if this is deliberately designed to sort of mess with the sort of play style that I have. But I think it's fair to point out here that I have a tendency to, like, hoard stuff. So, right, so, like, this has been a playthrough where I haven't committed pretty much anything to the Tree of Wisdoms. And I'm paying for that now. Because, like, so not only do I want to make sure that I have my elements of the soul ready for Salon, so, like, basically I don't want to spend all day preparing things and then not be ready to participate. I want to make sure that I'm coming sort of ready for anything, right? I want to be a good conversationalist. I don't want to just be limited to my subset. Now, again, given that I hadn't committed things to the Tree of Wisdoms, we did okay. Every opportunity we had to commit a soul card that we had, we succeeded in. So it could have been worse, but on the other hand, it also could have been better. And especially given that I gave up so much ink in order to be able to do that, and I wound up with a handful of lessons, you know, I feel like there are some things that I can do to make that better for next time. But the big thing is that we now know what it's like to do a salon. And more importantly, we don't necessarily have to invite people every single time. What we can do is we can, it doesn't have to be inviting people just for these lessons. We can invite people so that we can get languages from them, or we can invite people because we want to fulfill some of their, we want to fulfill some of the story that they had. There's definitely a number of other reasons why we would want to do this stuff. So in the end, we gained some good information out of that, and in the end, we wound up with a decent result. Not like a top tier one, but something that I can sort of say, all right, you know what, this was worth doing, and we got, in addition to getting information, we actually got some results. But yeah, I'm actually quite intrigued. Like the idea of the Salon doesn't strike me as one of these things where it's like, oh, I positively must, have all my elements. It's like, it's not one of these things where you'd say, okay, yeah, they're really going to mess around with one of the ways that I sort of tend to play the game. But now having done this event, I think there is a, oh, that's nice, memory satisfaction. Quiet salon. You held a salon. Perhaps there weren't very many guests, or they didn't have much to say. This is a marker to remind you that you can hold another one next season. Lesson Sacralamea. Weaving and not working. Watchman's Paradoxes. But yeah, now knowing how this works, I definitely know that I'm going to change up the way that I play the game. And honestly, I think putting little changes in the game to promote certain behaviors. So, as an example, the fact that, the fact that there is more, there's more stuff to buy means that I'm less likely to hoard a bunch of money. The fact that there is, the salon to do, like there's going to be opportunities for, there's going to be more opportunities for me to get certain lessons. It's less costly for me to get certain lessons. Basically, I can see more reasons to have a bit more churn. And the fact that I want to have a salon that goes quite well, I'm going to want to commit those elements of the soul. So again, there's just a couple little things that I do in the game, maybe because I sort of feel like there's an incentive to do it, or maybe, there's any number of reasons why this may be the case. But I'm definitely going to play a bit more. There's going to be some changes in terms of the way that I play based on the addition of the gatherings. So I do want to work towards a Horns and Ivories 10. I think that's the ending that I want to see for the story. So with that in mind, if I have something with scale or knock, that will be one that I sort of want to prioritize. Now, as it happens, none of them have scale or knock, so too bad for me. If I have other Horns and Ivories texts, and I think I might, I thought wrong. Although I could put it towards Lockworks and Clockworks. Oh, right. This was an impulse book. So let's... Visitor embarking. This visitor is eager to be on their way and won't usually tarry for conversation. Huh. So I'm going to need to make some choices in terms of my elements of the soul, but let's see what we can get with Malachite supplications first. The Other Line, one of Samuel Savage's more thoughtful works, an allegorical play about the city Clarity, a city that is also a book, and the sentences which inhabit it. The Lord's Proverbial and the Lord's Disquisitional war in the streets of Clarity, while the punctuants get drunk on ink and supply the jokes, though by Savage's usual standards there aren't very many jokes. The final act sees the Lord's Proverbial unsealing the city Clarity's gate to expel the population into the unknown. The formula that they use for the unsealing is a real one. It can be used with knock and preliminal meter to create a gate sign of power. Alright, there's the confounding parable. So we're going to roll the dice here on Malachite Supplications. Prayers addressed to the Malachite by the Sisterhood of the Triple Knot. We're taking advantage of the fog today. So, sea stories for the two Moon, Tryst, and the Lunar Globe. Or if I want Catwink, but we're going to try and be cheap. Perhaps you've provided Moon, but not enough to match Mystery Moon. If you're lucky, you might still succeed. Of course, if I'm unlucky, I won't have a memory. I'll have something which is like, add one piece of furniture. But I'm debating on whether or not I should do anything with the whist. I think in this case we might just make a bunch of money because I am going to want to restore the basket of dirty laundry. A little water splashes on the stones of the well to nourish the mosses there. So one thing I think is true is I'm going to want to just bake a bunch of stuff in advance. Like there's no reason to just be hanging on to this many raw ingredients. I do want to come up with sort of an inventory of all the different things that I can make, but once I've sort of done that, I think it would be a good idea for me to put a bit of effort into turning them into things that I can serve on relatively short notice. Okay, there's still a chance. So stuff also things, weather, and ubisunt. Where are my kindred? Where is the giver of treasure? Where are the benches to bear us? Joys to the hall to bring us together. Well, I'll just take advantage of the weather. So this is definitely one of those cases where I'm happy that I held the fog back. If we didn't, we may not have been able to do this. Right, increase relevant aspects by adding a weather card, which will be used up. An afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers to the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. Sorry, I just need 1 minute to check something here. Cool. Okay. Let's keep going on the earnings. Oops. It is autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. And actually, in this case... I'm going to bring back a health because that... Oh, nope, can't. It's going to try and make a... was going to try and make some more ink. I still can, just takes a little longer. All right, Malachite supplications, prayers addressed to the Malachite by the Sisterhood of the Triple Knot. If we should flourish not, let our enemies flourish in that time when we are no more. Our prayer describes how a strong desire of a strong degree of nectar aspect can be used with Lethe and Tridesma rites to bring forth the last nectar of the last history, the living ink, the ink in secret. This gives us another impulse, and we have Tridesma 2 lessons. So with that in mind, we will get the first one, acquire Tridesma, use this lesson to acquire a new skill. And then we will shelve the book in the impulse section. So I get to keep one of these. Now would not be a bad time. So I'm just going to caution people, as far as gameplay goes, we might be getting near the end in terms of advancing time, because this is going to be a point where I want to kind of work out what my my different commits are going to be. So I do have a little bit of a set of notes ready to go. I think one of the things, so I did make some notes in terms of the languages. So let me actually just write this stuff out right now. So the one thing that I want to keep in mind about the languages are that they're really going to be sort of the base of my, come on. They're really going to be sort of the base of my my tree here. So crack track. Bosk and... No, sorry. Illumination and preservation. Deep Mandaic. Okay, my pen just ran out of battery, so I'm gonna write this out. Sorry, I have it on a different spreadsheet, so... Okay. Okay, Deep Mandaic. That's Oromachistry and Ithistry. So there's a good argument for putting that into Oromachistry at the start. So Ericapean. So that goes into Illumination or Hushery. And Fusine, which we now have, goes either into Hushery or Ithistry. So Henevek, which we don't currently have access... wait, doesn't Serena Blackwood... Anyway, doesn't matter. So that one can go into Bosk or Ithistry. So it's worth noting that Ithistry has a little bit of a pileup here, which I'm going to want to keep an eye on. Hyksos, which we haven't seen yet. So that's a Nyctodromy and Scolacosophy skill. Killisimi, which we can get from Wakefield if we are so inclined. Now that's a Bosk skill. Or Scolacosophy for Arab. Ramsund is Birdsong and Preservation. Sabazine is Birdsong or Oromacastry. And finally, Vac is a Birdsong or Nyctodromy. Okay. So out of the ones that have... So remembering that I have a few which are sort of starting lines. Did I even write that down? Of course I didn't. Oh no, here I do. Okay. So Horomacastry, Bosk, and Hushery are the three that have paths that I'm going down. So with that in mind, in terms of priorities, if I'm going to use all of the Horomacastry ones, I would want Deep Mandayak and Sabazine before I go down that path. For Bosk, I would want Kernwek Hanavek and Killisimi. And then for Hushery, I would want Ericapean and Fusine. Now, I don't have an opportunity to get Ericapean. I feel like Serena Blackwood gives Sabazine, but I'm sure I would have noticed if that's true. I feel like I probably should have... I don't know. No, I'm gonna go so far as to say if Serena Blackwood did offer it, then I would be... Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I would have taken notice. So, I guess a couple things that I can do here is I could invite... Yeah, I could invite Schaller and Eason back for Crack Track and Mandayak. In fact, Deep Mandayak I could commit to the Tree of Wisdoms right off the start. Now, Horns and Ivories. This can go down Bosk or Scolacosophy. But I know at this point, this is one that I need to have up to... Wait, Bosk 10? Or Horns and Ivories 10? That doesn't make sense. How would I have Horns and Ivories 10 if it only goes up to 9? Well, I still think it's worth. I still kind of think it's worth going down this path, or like treating it as if it would be one of these higher level ones. So, whenever we have a knock or scale lesson to work with, I'm gonna make sure that we advance horns and ivories. But I'm definitely going to need to think a bit about what it means for something to be 10. So the real question here is, what am I going to do with like Sacra, Lamea, weaving and not working, Watchman's paradoxes, insects and nectars and such? So one way that I can try and navigate some of this is to... like what I can do is I can sort of write down the lessons that I already have, what they'll give me. So for instance, when I take a look at the skill table that I have based for languages right now, we've got 3 Fost, 3 Core, 1 Metal, 2 Whist, 2 Trist, 2 Health, 1 Shapt. Sorry, did I say 2 Trist? I meant 4 Trist. 2 Health, 1 Shapt. Did I say Fet already? If not, 2 Fet, 2 Arab. Now, obviously I will only get sort of half out of all of that. But one of the things that I'm sort of targeting towards is at least 8 skills of the kind. Okay. Let me just think specifically about what I'm going to do with the languages. So if I want to spend as little as possible committing languages to the Tree of Wisdoms, let's actually bring it up here. So we've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Why did I even think? I should know how many there are in terms of the Watchman's Tree. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 languages. So realistically, what I should be going for here is 1 language in each of these slots, and then I should be picking the language which is going to get a second layer. Is the more sensible way to go about this. And there is one, there is kind of one for every slot here. So the choice in terms of Fusine is I can put it in Ithistry or in Hushery. So if I put Fusine in Ithistry, this leaves Deep Mandaic and Henevek without a spot. Kilisimi can go into Bosk or Skolakosophy. So I'm going to make some arbitrary choices here. So let's say that I put Deep Mandaic into Horomachistry and I get the metal. That would then mean that I want to put Sabazine into Birdsong. So Birdsong would displace Ramsund and Vac. So Vac would need to go into Nyctodromy. And then Ramsund would have to go into Preservation. Okay, so that leaves me with a few items free. So let's then say that Hushery gets Ericapean. And that means that Crack Track needs to go into Illumination. Then I'll make another executive decision here and say that the Bosk goes into Sorry, Kilisimi goes into the Bosque, which means that Henevek needs to go into Ithistry. Oh, I already messed up. Okay, you know what? I'm going to do this over again. I don't know if I messed up the colors or what. Okay, so in this one I'm going to start. Fusine goes into Hushery. The only other one that could go into Hushery is Ericapean. So that one becomes Illumination. Deep Man Diet goes into Horamakastri. Which leaves Sabazine left aside, so we'll put that into Birdsong. Now, Birdsong displaces both Ramsand and Vac, so Vac goes into Nyctodromy. Ah, I get it now. Okay, no, I see how this all's going to play out. And then Ramsand, which goes into Preservation. Okay, so the ones that I have left open. I'm just going to take a minute to do a better color code job. Okay. This is not an easy chart to read now after what I just did to it. I think I'm going to undo these. Sorry, I'm trying to make things a little bit easier for me to keep track of, but I'm actually succeeding in making this harder to read. Okay, so Ithistry and the Bosque are currently unaccounted for. Let's say we put Kilisimi into the Bosque because we actually have access to that. So then the only option for Ithistry is Henevek, and that's fine. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere here. So Crack Track is the odd one out. And Hyksos winds up in Skolakosophy. Okay, cool. So Crack Track in the end winds up... Crack Track winds up getting a +1. Well, actually, it may not even be a +1 for Crack Track, because that is one that we can currently get access to. So perhaps what I want to decide is, do I commit that to Illumination or Preservation? But I don't need to make that decision right away. So there is one final decision that I need to make. So like I think I'm actually reasonably happy with how that would turn out. The total we actually get a fairly decent haul in terms of in terms of elements of the soul as well. So we get a fet, a trist, a core, a health, an Arab, a wist, a trist, metal, faust. So I guess we double up the trist, which is a little bit of a problem, but good to know that now rather than later. And then either another faust or core. So the Fusine sadly just gets us another tryst in Hushery. But there is, like I said, one last thing that I want to double check here. So it's one thing to sort of talk about the mechanics about how I'm doing this, but I also want to make sure that these are decisions that are consistent with where I see this character going. So we've got the Queen's Wound. There's a story known only to painters of a queen who could love no other, neither woman nor man, but only her own image. She sought 9 colors to grace the image, and the last was the turquoise of her eyes, a gift from the shadowless king. Her court poet hymned his queen and her image, and in the poem she heard the truth, that the image was greater, so she fled into the wood, and the image ruled her domain with the poet as its consort, but it always remembered her kindly. Or the queen's weapon. There's a story known to smiths of a queen whose realm was invaded by a great army. When she learnt that there were 9 invaders for every defender, she ordered her army to surrender its swords. Night and day her smiths labored to melt down the swords to bronze, while her generals threatened mutiny and the enemy advanced unhindered. They used the bronze to cast a bell, but each time the bell was rung, it cracked and had to be recast. At last, on the night before the invaders reached the city, the queen surrendered her crown to the casting. When at dawn the smiths rang the bell, it cracked the moon like an egg and drove the sun from the sky. The invaders fled, but the queen without a crown was no longer any queen at all. Both are interesting, but I feel comfortable enough doing the Queen's Wound here. Okay, so that's our first commitment. We don't have the skills to go any further. Now, if I want, I can talk a little bit about my remaining skills here, but these are sort of open questions, right? So Sacra Lamea, I could use to double down on Edict's Liminal. And I don't think, I don't have a level 2 yet to work on Sacra Lamea. Weaving and Not Working, similarly, if I wanted to boost Edict's Liminal, I could, but I could also use it to boost Quenchings and Quellings or Drums and Dances. For the Watchman's Paradox is sort of a similar story here. There's nothing Skywise that I would wind up using, but as far as Lantern... Oh, no, actually, Lantern, we would also avoid doubling it up. So that's one where I'm probably going to have to make some choices. Where else? Insects and Nectars. So for Moon... so this is another one. Do I want to push Drums and Dances really high? Drums and Dances does actually give me some useful things, so there is an argument to bring this to at least level 5. And then Tradis Mahaira, we could advance Pentiments and Precursors, or Sea Stories. Now, I suppose if I knew that I was... Yeah, actually, this is even harder because this is a Horomachistry. Horomachistry and Bosk. So we know we have at least level 1 for both of these covered. Oh, that's an interesting question, actually. So Sacra Lamea. We also know we have at least level 1 covered. So, in principle, I should actually be leveling this up already. So if the logic there doesn't quite make sense, Horomachistry is going to have Deep Mandaic at level 1, and Hushery already has Fusine at level 1. So there's no situation under which Sacra Lamea will be committed at level 1. This is one that we want to advance. So this one I'm comfortable moving up. Weaving and Not Working has Birdsong and Bosk. So I think this one actually has an argument for level... Actually, I think most of these will have an argument for leveling up to level 2, now that I think of it. Because again, if I look at my spreadsheet... The ones that potentially get a second are illumination and preservation. Did I get that right? Yeah. So illumination or preservation could wind up with a second one, but there should not be a skill now. Yeah, every single one of these should wind up with a 2 or higher that can be committed. So that makes my job a bit easier in terms of leveling things up. I may want to adjust my reading accordingly for some of these as well. But we can save that for tomorrow. So again, sorry for sort of taking the time to run through all of this, but I do want to be somewhat thoughtful in terms of how I approach some of these puzzles. Big one. All right, another leaf on the Tree of Wisdoms. The rites of the Sisterhood of the Triple Knot, which include certain mysteries of the dwellers in the wood behind the world. So we can commit some of this right away. Let's take a minute here just to see what I can bring with me. Yeah, so I can take the satisfaction overnight. So what we can do here is take Sacralamea and turn that into a second level. There's always more to learn. Improve the skill to level 2. This will increase its aspects, which will help with crafting and make it suitable for higher branches in the Tree of Wisdoms if you haven't already committed it. So the other thing for me to keep in mind is that potentially illumination or preservation will have a skill that can go up to level 3 because we'll have 2 languages committed. And I'll have to think a little bit about how I want to figure that out, but it's not a problem that I immediately need to worry about. So help with letters. I could offer help with correspondence and arithmetic. There's no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. So we could potentially use this whisk to level up Watchman's Paradoxes, but I would actually need a relevant skill. Weaving and not working is a little tempting too, so maybe for the last round. Well, No, actually at the end of the day I could... If I bring back the health, then I can use the satisfaction with weaving and not working. Maybe not. I'll think about it. One thing I might do, it depends on how my weekend goes, but I might actually sit down with a notepad and see if I can sort of figure out what skills I want to commit where. I'm not too worried about the current state of the... I think I'm going to avoid restoring the health at this point. We might be able to get by with leveling up weaving and not working, but I don't think it's worth the risk. Maybe what I'll do is I'll level up Trides Mahaira with the satisfaction, and then I'll use the occult scrap with weaving and not working. An afternoon spent profitably reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers through the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. Okay, so we will go to the Sweet Bones and do some laundry. At some point I want to make the replacement inks. At minimum I want to make 2 Peribiot for the desks that I took them from. I think I also took a Catwink. There isn't any ink here, which I'm noting. Night has fallen, dawn will come soon. So I'm thinking I'll use the occult scrap with weaving and not working, just because that will let me... fresh, clean, dry. That's going to let me get a commit Zachary's card to the writing case. We may even be able to use the weather to advance one of these lessons as well. What'll be nice is the fewer elements of the soul that I can use to generate... I'm actually going to wait for the weather here, but I am going to use the whisk to earn some money. All for help with correspondence and arithmetic. There's no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. Okay, so this is going to be relevant, right? So I'll use weaving and not working, so we can use the the fet with the occult scrap. We can get that one. We can use health with insects and nectars to level that one up. And then we can sort of decide what we want to do with Watchman's Paradoxes and Tradisma Hyra. But both of these are pretty easy for us to get an easy win with. So there's always more to learn. Improve the skill to level 2. This will increase its aspects, which will help with crafting and make it suitable for higher branches in the Tree of Wisdoms, if you haven't already committed it. I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. So now with the satisfaction, we can use the Tryst to level up Tradisma Hyra, and that'll just leave us with the Watchman's Paradoxes. Which again, we can choose to level up if we want, or we can decide to do something else with the day. I think I'm gonna wait and see how I level these things up first, and then we can make a decision. It's a little inefficient for the day. I'll probably actually go to Crowcross Sands and see if I can get some pilchards. But we don't have a ton of elements of the soul yet, so I'm kind of okay drawing out the day. Okay, insects and nectars. I should probably reorder these. Tradisma Hyra. These are largely coincidental at this point, but I don't want to spend too much time fussing around with the elements of the soul. We know all of these things are eventually going to be leveled up to these, so these are fairly uncontroversial choices. The only efficiency that I could really get out of this would be picking one that gives me a particular result. So something like, Edict's Marshal, if I'm able to level that up quite quickly, that just gets me a Wormwood Dream faster. But even then, there's sort of other things that can happen to make that simpler. An afternoon spent profitably, reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, steering farmers to the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. So again, we're going to focus on making some money with this. It is autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. Okay. Oh, what am I doing? I need to wait for the consider verb. So yeah, I mean, there's plenty of stuff for us to do. What I think... I'm going to have sort of two tracks that I take care of this with. So the skill is now level 2. Its power aspects have also increased. And... There's always more to learn. So I'm thinking probably a decent way to think of this would be... Thank you very much for the follow, Moogeek. So I'm thinking maybe... like Wainscot Histories makes sense because this has Auroral Contemplations in it. Now, I'm not 100% sure how I think I'm going to get the 6 lantern that's required. I'm very happy to hear that, Moogeek. I will say, not to oversell the streaming stuff, but I do... This particular playthrough through House of Light hasn't wound up on YouTube yet. But I do actually I do put recordings on YouTube precisely because people do actually like the sound of the stuff being read. So where I can, I try and I give the people what they want. But yes, if you're ever looking for something to put on as a playlist before you go to bed, there's a couple of like 12-hour streams that I did on the... oh, could you please not tell me how to play the game? I've got about 600 hours in it, and I don't feel that I need the tips, nor do I really want them. I am sorry to start on this foot, but I want to be as clear as I possibly can on that. House of Light is the expansion, yes. It is an early beta of House of Light. But yeah. So we wouldn't do something like the Unknown Tantra yet because we're already getting an improvement for Watchman's Paradoxes. Now, the tricky part with Watchman's Paradoxes is that if it's going into Nyctodromy, it can stay at 2. If it's going into Illumination and we wind up putting... I guess it was Crack Track was the second one that I... Ooh. Where was I? Yeah, so Crack Track was sort of the free one. So if we put Illumination, yeah, so if we put it into Illumination, then theoretically I'd be able to put Watchman's up to 3. But if that winds up going in Preservation, for instance, if I wanted a higher core, then that can go by for 2. So I think we're gonna I'm gonna wait until I make a firm decision on that. Well, if you choose to take that as hostility, you can, but maybe what you should keep in mind is that somebody who is new to a broadcast, you know, I have a lot of people coming in and telling me how to play games. And to be honest, it makes me want to just stop streaming rather than continuing on to play. So I could just ban people, but that doesn't seem to be like a good way to start it off. But I don't know how else I could communicate that I don't want to be told how to play the game because it is something that makes it not enjoyable for me. And I figure telling people plainly what the expectations are seems to be a little bit better than turning into a very long discussion like it's become right now. I appreciate that people are trying to be helpful with that, and I try to respect the fact that people think that they're being helpful by letting them know what the guidelines are. But I think it's also fair to say that a game like Book of Hours is entirely about exploration and being able to go through the house and sort of learn things on your own. And so my hope would be that other people will allow you know, broadcasters who might be new to the game the opportunity to sort of get lost and sort of figure things out on their own. And if nothing else, it would maybe be more appropriate for people to ask rather than just simply volunteer these sorts of things. Yeah, Delude is a very good broadcaster and sort of knows the challenge. So I'm sorry if you feel sort of put on the spot about this, but you know, I'm not quite sure how else I'm supposed to communicate that something's happened in my own stream that I didn't like. All right, so I'm going to try and get back to playing the game. So we've got A True History of Valentine de Wolf, which would allow me to bring up another level of Furs and Feathers. And again, that one's pretty unambiguous in terms of leveling up. Sky Stories is another single level. So yeah, we've actually unlocked quite a few now that we've made some decisions in terms of languages. What does not bark? So we were originally a little concerned about this because of the Edicts Inviolable. So that can go into Horomachistry or Preservation. Now, this one is, because it has the Preservation, is a little bit of a question mark because we, oops, we don't know if it's going to be level 2 or level 3 minimum, but either way, we know it's not going to stay at level 1. None of these are going to stay at level 1 anymore. Keonad Abydos, I think, is the same story. So if we have... yeah, if we've got snow stories, then... we're just running out of space to put... okay, actually, what we can do here... so it is written, and Letters to My Successor are the ambitious texts. So what we'll do is we will shift around the shelves. And against Vitruvius, I think same story here. We can level up Lockworks and Clockworks. So really it's just the known unknown Tantra that we can't put in the... well, we can, but we would prefer not to put into the list yet. So... I have a couple of options available to me in terms of the day. So if I want... I do also want to get sort of mackerel and pilchards for some recipes. So I could go to Crowcross Sands for that. Or I could use the Tryst to generate a sky memory. This is actually why it's a bit of a shame I let that Savage Hymn go by, because if we'd preserved it, that would have been good for leveling up Watchman's Paradoxes. I have a weak preference for just clearing out all the memories and lessons. Yeah, we're going to read the book. Or I can get clever and say... So I think we did all of Levinson's prefigures. Yeah, so I'm trying to decide, do I want to look at the Brazen Clock or do I want to move on to the... yeah, let's try the Brazen Clock. I mean, if nothing else, it... oops. No need to look at Ava's desk. Right, I need the consider verb for that. Okay, maybe I do read the book. Now we got time. Okay. So yeah, I figure I have sort of put the investigation of the house sort of on hold. So I figure what we can do here is we can examine an object, still get the memory that we need, and then we will be able to level up Watchman's Paradoxes with the Whist. We'll still make a little bit of money in the Sweet Bones because we're likely going to go hiring some special help. And then maybe at the end of the day we'll use the Whist for something else. Alright, the skill is now level 2. Its power aspects have also increased. So... investigate the object. So, a brazen clock. It's not immediately apparent that this clock lacks hands, although when wound, it dutifully ticks. Better now. All right, we're still gonna make this for the, or use this for the money. An inscription reads, "For DM, time is, time was, Time is past. So we got our sight for that. We're going to use that to level up Watchman's Paradoxes. Now I'm trying to remember. I feel like I knew at one point what DM was. Hendrik de Wolf, Thomas de Wolf, Walter de Wolf, Musgrave Gideon, Valentine de Wolf, Ava de Wolf, Ambrose Westcott, Solomon Husher, Kitty Mazarine, Fraser Strathcoyne, Natalia Brulot, Willem Harries, Thirza Blake, David Green, Brian Levinson, Serena Blackwood, Gervenius Van Loren. Right, so it wouldn't be any of the librarians. Why am I drawing a blank on this? So obviously not every character in the history of the house is necessarily a librarian. So, for instance, Ibn al-Adim served as secretary nunciate for the Curia. So he wasn't often here, but he was here occasionally. George Collars, underappreciated hero of the story, would be another non-librarian but authority figure. And for some reason I want to say De Morgan, but that's Augustus De Morgan is not, definitely not. All right, well, I can sit on this forever, but I think it's pretty clear I'm not going to get this right now. But what's going to happen is I'm going to read one of these stupid books and I'm going to be like, oh yeah, this is DM. So anyways, for DM, time is, time was, time is past. We will take the Watchman's Paradoxes and... on, so there's always more to learn. So I'm also just kind of conscious of the fact that I'm probably going to be wrapping up, but I think we have a pretty clear idea of how the next little while is going to go. The Dungeon Master for now. This skill is now level 2. Its power aspects have also increased. So, for the next few streams, there's 2 tracks of activity that I want to do. So one is going to be restoring all of the peribiate that I consumed to start the next Salon. And I am not unhappy that I did the Salon, but it's also very clear that if I don't have sort of a full set of if I don't have a full set of elements of the soul, it probably isn't a very good idea for me to start it. So I don't think it's a bad idea for me to still build up as much ink as I can, but yeah, so I mean, if nothing else, restoring the peribiate that was already used, that'll probably take up a heart. So the way I'm thinking of it here, weaving and not working is my usual mechanism for getting peribiate. So I figured that that's going to be a health and the cake bowls or kitchen bowls. And that'll basically be like 5 days work in the grand scheme of things, but obviously that doesn't have to be 5 consecutive days. So that's one element of the soul spoken for. Now, in terms of the rest of the books, I mean, most of these things are achievable. And in fact, some of them, actually, you know what, let's maybe order this a little more sensibly. So in terms of Sky, Yeah, we've really just got ourselves to the Anbury and Lapidary level. So let's maybe take the sky texts. So these ones are a little harder for me to read as it is, right? So my best bet right now would be, let's say Sacralamea for the sake of the argument. We don't have Faust, so we don't have a sky that we can put in there. Right now, our highest level sky that we can directly access would be a storm, like a storm memory. Obviously, if we make the Swaddled Thunder, then we can get Force Storm out of that. If we get Force Storm out of the Swaddled Thunder, then we're laughing, and we have everything that we need. But because I haven't committed to a Faust yet, we're basically waiting on the weather. So two sky from a storm would bring us up to 4. We could add the Astrolabe, which would bring us up to 5, but we would effectively be hoping that we get another draw that helps us out. So I'm not saying these are off the table, but I'd maybe want to do these a little bit later in the order to try and improve my chances. Now, Keonid Obidos is a little bit easier for us because we've got... Well, actually, we don't just have Whist, we have 2 Whist. So that one, we start with 2. We also have Quenchings and Quellings, which is 4. So at that point, we don't even need a memory. So that should probably go at the front of the list. What does not bark? So that's a relatively straightforward one for us to level up. So we could probably take the Trist, let's say Sea... Actually, I think Sea Stories is only 1 moon? No, it's 2. So Trist, Sea Stories, and the Lunar Globe. Let me just see here. So Edicts Inviolable gives me Heart and Moon, and we already have a higher level of Heart. Yeah, so Keonid Obidos would allow me to improve Snow Stories. Well, I mean, yeah. Neither of them are really critical. Okay, Wainscot Histories, the subject of vicious debate inside of this channel. We do have the 1 lantern from the Whist. I do have 2 from the Auroral Contemplations, which is 3. So actually, if I add a Revelation, that's 5, and then I add the Mirror Scope, which is 6, and then I can get that... I can actually just get that on my own without needing to wait for weather. So... under normal circumstances, this would actually go higher up on the list just because it does give me a couple of extra things. So it also gives me 2 edge, which we don't have a lot of. But given that this requires 3 elements of the soul, and these I can do with just a handful of inputs, I'm going to leave it be. So this little trio is good to go. This we're going to wait for weather for. You can move these to the... you know what? Leave them hanging around. These are aspirational. I particularly like Letters to My Successor because it does give me my first ink... well, my most likely ink, let's say. It is written also gives me inks of power, but I don't see... actually, if I'm honest, I'm just as likely to read It Is Written as I am to read Letters to My Successor. They're both level 8. They're both elements of the soul that I have only 1 level of right now. The only thing that will change is when I get Auroral Contemplation. Okay, let me game this out, actually. So Auroral Contemplations up to level 2 would give me 3 Lantern. 3 Lantern plus the 1 from the Whist would be 4. Revelation is 6. All right, Mirror Scope is 7. We wouldn't have enough to push it over the edge. And then the same story here. It Is Written, so we take It Is Written. We add Health, level 2. Pentiments and Precursors would be up to 4. Serpent Style Glass is up to 5. Hang on. Health 1, Pentiments and Precursors 3. Let's say Fear is 5. Glass is 6. Yeah, I guess on that one I would be waiting. Okay, so Letters to My Successor is ever so slightly more likely than it is written. But both are sort of like in sort of reaching distance, but not fully there. This is definitely one that I would wait for a sunny day for, because if it wasn't clear from before, weather counts as both a memory and a weather. And then when you read a book that is too challenging for you, one of the possible augments that you can get is weather. So what I have found is the optimal strategy in this case would be you read a book with a memory that you've generated. So for instance, here we've got our Revelation shelf. So if we read Sunrise Awakenings or Locksmith's Dream Volume 4, Stolen Reflections, we get a revelation. So that's worth 2 lantern, right? So then we do our whole setup. Now, if I had Faust, this is not even a debate, but right now I'm sitting on Whist. So Whist gives us 1 lantern. Revelation gives us 2. The Auroral Contemplations gives us 3. So that's 6, is it? Whist is 1, 3 from Auroral Contemplations is 4, yeah. Revelations is 6. Mirror Scope is 7. The last slot is the book itself, so we're 7 of 8. And what happens there is we potentially get furniture, we potentially get an element of the soul because I already have the other Whist. We potentially get art or an object or comfort, but there's also the chance that we get weather. The one that would still sink us is if we get like 3, I think it's like Ubi Sunt. So I think Epiphany is the one that gives you lantern. So if we had like 3 Ubi Sunt in a row, we'd be in trouble. But yeah, anyways, it just happens to be that because there's a specific weather as opposed to memory item, I tend to find that it's easier to keep the weather outside of the investigation. So I think I'm going to say, well, you know what, let's finish off the day. I was going to wrap it up here, but let's finish off the day just so I have a clean slate to work with. One alternative I have, Keonad Abydos, I think gives us a regret. So regret would be Winter and Forge. Yeah, so under normal circumstances I would have gone to my bed in the librarian's quarters, but if I do that, then I'm not able to level up Snow Stories. So I lied. Not only am I going to finish today, but I'm actually going to seed tomorrow with its work. But I am going to speed it up just so... We're just going to make money tonight. I don't think I see much value in playing around with the rest. I should also remember to get myself a... Oh, hang on. There's 2 things that I need to do. One, I was going to add Zachary's card. So for what you might call an occult correspondence. So we get a free occult scrap for that. And then at some point I do need to restore my Earth sign. But will they come when you do call for them? So Wakefield will need 3 winter when the time comes. It's also worth noting that we did finish was Gladwin Lake. Is this it? Huh. I was not expecting this. The Friar's Tapestry, what happened at Gladwin Lake? So if we bring in Arun, Connie, or Stanislav. Huh. Oh wait, no, of course. Zachary was not part of the okay. So I think the best thing for me to do as part... So we can't really progress or we can't even get an indicator of what will happen with the Friar's Tapestry if we don't have the people present. So I think the next Salon makes sense to bring Arun, Connie, and Stanislav. So that's 3 nectar. I think Connie is a high... No, Connie only's 3 moon. Fair enough. So Aaron Peel. He's the 7 moon. Okay. So that is going to be a little difficult, but I also presumably am going to be at a point where I've committed a few more things to the Tree of Wisdoms. An afternoon spent profitably, reading newspapers to the curious, writing affectionate letters for the lonely, and steering farmers through the requirements of the Ministry of Agriculture. But yeah, so at some point, I need to get my Earth sign back. Next Salon will not happen until we have the elements of the soul to sustain a proper conversation. This, of course, does not mean that I can't prepare for the next one, but I have a few other priorities to work with before that happens. Memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. Okay, so no matter what happens, I'm going to read Keonad Abydos. I can master this mystery, enough winter to match mystery winter. I think we can also do the same with what does not bark. So that was sea stories I wanted to add. Shame on me for putting that on the bottom. Right, sorry, we also need the lunar globe. Moon, a culmination. I can master this mystery. Enough moon to match mystery moon. Now, I want to think a little bit about what skills I'm going to commit. So this one is snow stories. So that one I can technically use the Whist or the Tryst. And then for what does not bark, that is heart or moon. Okay, so that makes it a little inconvenient then. So I'm going to use the Whist to make some money first. Help with letters. I could offer help with correspondence and arithmetic. There's no school in Brandkrug, and not everyone here knows their letters. Let's see what the weather brings for today. Oh boy. This really throws a wrench in the plans. Alright, so this would be the point where I want to try and read one of these sky texts. None of these are appropriate. Okay. Darn. Actually, we could get by with this. So, if I add the Fet, we could add the Gale. So that's 5 of 6. Okay, no, we're onto something here. So I want to be kind of careful in terms of how I choose this. So we'll take Barren Silence's Astrolabe. So what I'm thinking about here, right, is I want to pick the sky book that is potentially going to give me more sky skill. So for instance, if I use Sky Stories, which currently has 2, that will mean that I'll have 3 in future, which means all of a sudden I don't need to wait for a gale. Oh, hang on. Are these both? No, okay. Good. True History of Valentine de Wolf, so that's Furs and Feathers, which Oh, I will confess I'm a little surprised by that. And then against Vitruvius... Yeah, that is not a huge surprise. Okay, so basically True History of Valentine de Wolf or Against the Sister of the Knot and the Foulness of Their Depraved Customs. And apparently because I'm a big old jerk that tells people they're not allowed to say anything they want inside the channel, I feel that a furious screed by Hieronymus Pseudo-Hypnotomachus, Hypnerotomachus, is in character for me. So we are definitely going to be short on elements of the soul to level these things up. However, we have time, I think. If nothing else, we can just restore some elements of the soul when the time comes. I do want to start working on some of the Peribiot, so let's go to the dispensary, weaving and not working. And then we can add the kitchen bowls. No! Oh, right, sorry, because it's not the desk. We're fine. Actually, I guess it's a little more appropriate if we do it at the kitchen. Alright, craft Peribiot. Not all knots are physical. I can brew an ink which ties the naming to the named. And I think that is a good place to leave the playthrough for now. So just a reminder, essentially what we're going to be doing here, I'm kind of queuing up some lessons learned that I will, I'll use to sort of boost up the, the skills here. And again, the reason why I can do that is essentially, when all is said and done, the level 1s are all going to be languages. There will be one level 2, either in preservation or in illumination. And then from there, the rest of the skills are going to go primarily down Horomachistry, Bossk, and Hushery. Those in turn will give me access to more branches on the Tree of Wisdom. The real aim here is to try and get these things up to the top skill. That's mostly just an achievements thing for myself, but it's also just nice to have things to sort of aim for in a given playthrough. And then I don't know. I think the thing I'm really looking to do right now is to maybe clear the logjam in terms of going down Horomachistry, Ithistry, and Bossk. It'll be a little bit easier to clear Hushery and Horomachistry. Did I say Ithistry? Sorry, Horomachistry, Hushery, and Bossk, if I didn't say that before. I think those will be a little bit easier to clear. I think Hushery and Horomachistry will be easier to clear out because I can get Deep Mandayak from Eason as long as I invite him back. What will be a little more tricky is Bossk, which... Actually, no, I guess because Zachary Wakefield's in my writing case, I can invite him and we should be able to get Kilisimi as well. Okay, no. The 3 axes that I want to move along, they're ready to go. So the second order question, I suppose, would be which of these skills do I want to level up the fastest or the furthest? So like I'm in a little bit of a honeymoon phase right now where basically anything that isn't preservation or illumination I can take up to a level 2 without questions. The harder question then becomes, which ones do I want to commit to which branch? Because my extended goal would be to try and get 8 of each element of the soul. And then there are some, basically there's some trade-offs that you face. Like I think Hushery winds up giving you a tryst or something like that. So, I don't know. I think I'm just gonna, I think rather than think that sort of stuff out on the stream, I'm going to I'm going to try and work this out with sort of a pencil and paper and decide roughly how I want to traverse the Tree of Wisdoms. But that's going to be for another day. I'm a little sleepy, although I want another tea and I want to get some writing done. So thank you everybody for watching. Specifically, thank you for sticking around with me for so late. I know I started later, and I thank you very much for hanging out as long as you did, Kree. I appreciate it. But yeah, I appreciate all of you hanging out as long as you did. I hope the Salon sort of paid off. I was interested in it. I felt a little disappointed that I wasn't able to get the full results from it, but I think there was just enough of the fun dialogue to make it worth doing. And I do notice that Kilgore Trout is streaming Anvil of Dawn, so good evening to you, ever-waiting sleeper. So I'm going to host him for tonight. Now, I do just want to give a little bit of a public service announcement in terms of how the streams are going. Obviously, I'm going to be spending quite a bit more time with House of Light. I fully intend to kind of keep running with that, with this game rather. But the one catch on this will be that I did find out that it's a long weekend for Canada. I also found out that I have like 23 vacation days that I absolutely have to take. Like I will get in trouble at work if I do not take it. So like that's basically a full month once you account for the days off. And like just to keep that in mind, that is the like I am over and there is like I have to use it. That is not all my vacation time. That is my vacation time to bring myself into compliance. But my kind of deal here has been if there is a Canadian holiday, I want to try and take the day for myself. Just that's to try and help prevent like burnout and stuff like that. What I will try and do is maybe record some more videos over the long weekend. But it's less likely that I will be streaming House of Light on Monday. I will, however, be back on Wednesday and Friday, a week from now, for more House of Light. So hopefully that's not too disappointing for people. Please enjoy Kilgore Trout. Have a good weekend. Bye.